Everyone loves a little bit of irony, right? Especially when it comes to the courts and Microsoft's ability to close a massive acquisition. If you don't like court drama and Microsoft trying to close a $70 billion acquisition, this week really hasn't been for you. But if you do, and you like watching this stuff, it's been fruitful of knowledge and things from the FTC, the UK, the EU, and all the other court bodies just dropping things coming out Thanksgiving week. Because why not? We're celebrating the bird. Let's celebrate some court documents, I guess, or something like that. Anyways, so a little bit of irony, and by a little bit, I mean a hilarious amount of irony, is coming out of the UK because they have issued a ruling, and they're maybe not a ruling, but a document and a pathway and where they are headed with the mobile segment, and they effectively need Microsoft's help. So this summer, the CMA, which is the anti-competitive ruling body, even though it's sort of not quite the same in the US, but it's the group that if they're going to block the Xbox acquisition, they're going to be the ones who do it. And they have issued a statement or a report that from this summer, that Apple and Google effectively have a duopoly on the App Store. They say an effective duopoly on mobile ecosystems that allow them to exercise a stranglehold over the operating system, app stores, web browsers on mobile devices. Now, they are moving to a phase 2 review of these App Store duopolies, which is the exact same phase 2 that Microsoft was going through while trying to close Activision. The hilarious irony here is that part of Microsoft's bid to close this is the justification. It's like, look, by bringing in Activision in-house, we can build a mobile game app store and have quality product that people are going to want to play at a broad scale. And so here, on one hand, the UK is saying like, look, they've got a duopoly over here. And the other one's like, well, we can't let Microsoft buy Activision because they might be able to use that power to get more people into a store. And it's like, okay, guys, like the narrative writes itself here. And this has been one of Microsoft's key arguments all along, is that for them to be able to compete in the mobile gaming space, they need top tier titles. Now, they have a lot in their portfolio, but Call of Duty would be the premier title and actually give them a better than good chance of actually being able to establish a mobile games app store. And so this is where like fate loves irony and everything else, because according to the CMA, Google and Apple have been able to dominate the mobile browser market, and Apple restricts cloud gaming through their app store. Let us not forget, friends, that Microsoft has been trying to put a native app onto the App Store that would allow you to use cloud gaming technology that Microsoft has established through the Game Pass Ultimate tier. But you can't do that. If you want to play your game streaming, you effectively have to go to the webpage, install it as an app that goes outside of the App Store, and that's the only way that you can really do this. Microsoft would love to put their Xbox streaming app into the App Store, but we all know Apple's like, nah, bro, we're not going to let you do that. And so here we are at the cornerstone of an argument where Microsoft needs more titles, more IP to effectively build a mobile game app store. And the UK is saying, like, look, they've got a duopoly. Whatever can we do? And it's like the timing is right. And I would love to give Microsoft the credit and think, oh man, we really lined all of this stuff up so that it would be perfect and we could go to courts with this. That's probably reading into it a little bit too much, but the timing is correct. So the hilarious part of this is that after this report came out from the CMA, Apple issued a response. They say, with respects to cloud gaming, Apple does not prevent cloud gaming apps from appearing on the App Store, nor is it trying to block the emergence of cloud gaming apps. On the contrary, Apple has worked with developers specifically to allow them to offer cloud gaming apps while maintaining adequate protections for the consumer. And that is, you gotta be laughing at that, because of course Apple says Microsoft put it in there, but every single game must be reviewed by us, and every single transaction must give us 30%, regardless, every single month, and it just doesn't work. The math and modeling does not work for what Microsoft is trying to do, unless everyone listening to this is willing to pay 30% more for Xbox Game Pass. Now, Microsoft would probably love that, but I don't think any of us are willing to do that. So here we are with the irony of the day. And it'll be interesting to see what really actually happens here with this review, because we also know what's happening in the US, where that's going to get drawn out. And realistically, who else out there could come out with a third-party marketplace? Because I think many of us, myself included, might agree that the courts are eventually going to come and say, Apple, you're going to have to make some changes. Same with Google. They'll probably be put on a level playing field. Amount of percentages that are allowed. In-app transactions may not be allowed to be at that 30% rate, something like that. And then they try to bring in another marketplace, which Xbox could be it. I don't think Facebook has enough content, but you can imagine Microsoft trying to do it by putting all their Office apps, their games, and everything else. The problem is that people will feel a little bit dicey about giving Microsoft more market power. But let's be honest, Microsoft has completely flopped in the mobile space. Their Windows Phone completely gone. Like they don't have a mobile OS. They have mobile apps that do very well, but I don't believe it's a massive profit center for them. And it's a market they want to get into. That's why they're willing to spend so much money in the gaming spaces, because look, this is our new avenue into the mobile segment that we have failed on every single time before. So who else could do it? AWS, Amazon, maybe, because they do have a competing store. But the reality is they shouldn't be picking and choosing a winner who could be the third party, right? It's just who actually has the capacity to do it. They should open it up and let the free market decide. But at the end of the day, I think changes are going to be coming to this. It's going to be low and slow. Long and slow is what I was trying to enunciate. But at the end of the day, something is going to change on that Apple-Google side. The problem becomes, or the challenge, or the impossibility becomes, what happens on the gaming side? Apple got dinged pretty hard through this. I believe the interesting thing here is Stadia. Stadia went through a very similar process trying to get stuff onto the App Store, and Apple was the same way, same deal. And so as the emergence of this sort of gaming modeling comes about, of streaming, Microsoft is in a unique position. They have some big challenges ahead, but now the courts on one side of the coin are actually favoring them. And I still believe that potentially, even if Microsoft could not close the Activision acquisition, they could still build out a third-party store, but the gravitas of it becomes just significantly less without the Call of Duty. And the other thing that we can't forget, besides the fact that my kid is home making a whole bunch of noise upstairs, is that Google kind of jumped on the Sony bandwagon here in the US. Now, the leaked FTC ruling said Google was sort of like saying, hey, we shouldn't allow them to buy Activision. It makes you just wonder, in the back of my head, if Google knows outside the US, at least for now outside the US, that the government bodies are looking at their app stores. They're sitting here thinking in the US, you know what? We can ride on the fact that Stadia was a failure, that Microsoft shouldn't be allowed to own this space. But realistically, their intentions very well could be thinking, look, Microsoft might be launching a third-party app store, and if they have Activision content in there, that could potentially hurt us. So we should probably push back against that, and that's exactly what we see them doing here in the US. It's an interesting little extra salt on the wound of the Microsoft, Apple, Facebook, AWS, all these guys competing, is that you got to go strategic with this stuff. So keep that in the back of your mind, that here, while we focused a lot on Apple blocking the cloud gaming stuff overseas, Google has a very vested interest now if in the future Microsoft is going to launch its third-party app store on its own platform, because it's forced to do so by regulatory bodies. Having Activision in there is a big draw. So here we are in the tangled web of business and court cases and Activision and Xbox and everybody else trying to strategically protect their business, which I totally understand. I understand why Sony is going into the courts. I understand why Google is going to the courts. I understand why Apple is trying to protect their business with the app stores and the 30%, and they say they're doing everything across the board fair. I get it. At the end of the day, the question becomes, do these practices really impact consumers negatively? And that's what these bodies are trying to determine. And it's not an easy answer, especially as you start to tangle the web of app stores, Microsoft launching their own, Activision being what it is, Microsoft being $1 trillion company and trying to spend $70 billion. It gets complicated, it gets messy, but I kind of find it interesting. So as we continue to ebb and flow and weeble and wobble through these court cases, I'll try to do my best to distill it down. So make sure to keep it subscribed here, because the only BS on this channel is me.